Would you ever consider licensing your platform to other OEMs? Presumably that would help switch the industry towards electric mobility, in your opinion.
Well, we've already open sourced all our patents. Anyone can use our patents for free. So, great. We only patent things in order to prevent others from creating this minefield of patents that inhibit progress with electric vehicles. But several years ago, I came to the conclusion we're never going to really prosecute anyone for using our patents. So let's just say you can use any Tesla patents for free. So I think hopefully that's helpful to others. But I think the regular car industry, the traditional car makers, will solve electrification. It's not fundamentally difficult at this point to make electric cars. The thing that I think they may be interested in licensing is Tesla Autopilot full self-driving. And I think that would save a lot of lives. But I think we still have, we have to prove ourselves for, I don't know, maybe another year or so. And then perhaps there will be some other car makers who may wish to license Tesla Autopilot. And we'd be very open to that.
Thank you. Of all the other EV startups, which one has impressed you the most?
Well, I think the company making the most progress besides Tesla is actually VW, which is not a startup, but could be viewed in some ways as a startup from an electric vehicle standpoint. So VW is doing the most on the electric vehicle front. I think there will be some very strong companies coming out of China. There's just a lot of super talented, hardworking people in China that are strongly believe in manufacturing, and they won't just be burning the midnight oil; they'll be burning the 3 a.m. oil. So they won't even leave the factory type of thing. Whereas in America, people are trying to avoid going to work at all.
You've been critical of lockdowns in the past, particularly when it happened in the US. Shanghai is currently locked down. Most of the Western world is able to carry on functioning at the moment because of vaccines, but China is going towards a zero COVID approach. What do you make of the Chinese government's actions?
Well, I've had some conversations with the Chinese government in recent days, and it's clear that the lockdowns are being lifted rapidly. So I would not expect this to be a significant issue in the coming weeks. In the past, where I was sort of upset with lockdowns is where those lockdowns differentially affected Tesla, but not others. So in the case of California and the Bay Area counties specifically, every other car factory in North America was allowed to start, but not Tesla, even though there was no basis for that. It was simply because we were located in Alameda County in California. But they had no rational, it was arbitrary and unfair, and that's the reason for why we're quite upset about kind of Tesla being singled out as the only car company in America that wasn't allowed to start, even though I think our healthcare practices are probably better than anyone else.
Do you think you'll ever wrap all your various operations, Tesla, SpaceX, etc., under one umbrella group, or do you want to keep them separate for the time being?
I think there's sort of separate objectives with different shareholder bases, and I think I don't see a ton of merit in combining them. At times there are people, where we have some very talented people who actually are willing to join, but they want to do things both at SpaceX and Tesla. So, for example, we've got one of the best advanced materials teams in the world. It might be the best, but it's certainly one of the best. And a lot of people on that team were willing to join, but only if they could work on both rockets and cars. And so it was like, great, let's do that. And so we can sort of share some of the ideas between rockets and cars, which are obviously not competitive. They're not different competitive segments. So like if you say like if somebody's a really incredible technologist, innovator, engineer, they want to work on interesting things. So the more interesting, sure, like money's, but like they could get money from, anyone would hire them for a lot of money. So then it's not a money thing. It's really just how interesting are the projects. And so there are just a few cases where we can recruit some of the smartest, engineers, scientists, technologists in the world, but they want to work on both rockets and cars. And there's a few cases like that.
What do you think is the next big innovation in personal transportation?
Well, I think tunnels are underrated, underappreciated. Tunnels will never let you down, or will they?
Here's the question on tunnels, right? So if you look at, say, for instance, Robert Moses in New York built loads of highways. They were supposed to solve congestion, and all they did was led to more congestion. How do you avoid tunnels doing exactly the same, but just being very expensive in the process?
I have to say this notion of induced demand is one of the single dumbest notions I've ever heard in my entire life. If adding roads just increases traffic, why don't we delete them and decrease traffic? And I think you'd have an uproar if you did that. The real problem is that we have not. If you take, say, congested cities, which really almost all large cities are congested. You have a fundamental dimensional problem. You have, say, these tall buildings or multi-level buildings where you've got, people living in 3D, and then you want to take them in and out of those buildings on a 2D road network. Like, how would you possibly expect that to work? And especially if they want to all, arrive and depart at roughly the same time. This is just a recipe for traffic, obviously. So now if you go 3D, which you go 3D up or you go 3D down, now you're matching the dimensionality of the buildings. The buildings are 3D, and if the road network, or you could potentially have flying cars, is 3D, then you will completely alleviate the traffic problem. So think of tunnels not as a single layer of tunnels, but as many layers as you want, as whatever layer count is necessary to drop traffic to negligible levels. I think it's so obvious this will work, it boggles my mind that people wouldn't think it would work. And we have a proof of concept for this in Las Vegas with a tunnel going from the convention center to the Strip, and that will soon be connecting all of the hotels and the airport in Las Vegas, and people will just try it out for themselves. It's working really well already in Vegas. And there was some skepticism among the county and the city as to whether it would be effective. And I think the test tunnel just barely succeeded in a vote with the local government in Clark County and Las Vegas. But once they saw the initial test tunnel and rode in it themselves, we got a unanimous vote in favor of expanding it to the whole city. So that should tell you something.
Could you ever potentially go in the other direction, three-dimensionally, and look at VTOLs and potentially flying vehicles?
Well, I like the idea of VTOLs, but we already have VTOLs in the form of a helicopter. So, but the problem with going 3D in the air is that you now have things that make a lot of noise, and the wind force that they generate when taking off or landing is very high. I mean, if you just say, like, look at a little drone and say, now imagine if that thing was big, what a racket it would make and how much wind force would it generate. And now they're going all over the place, like a giant beehive of super noisy bees. I don't think this is what people want. And most cities, helicopters are actually banned except for emergency purposes because of this reason. So then there's also the weather dependency. So if there are high winds or heavy snow, rain, sleet, now you can't fly. So that now you're shut down and can't go anywhere. Then there's the probability of something falling on your head is much higher if there are all these VTOLs flying all over the city. I mean, I think people's comfort level would be quite reduced. Should someone have perhaps not properly serviced their, flying car and drops a wheel on your head. I know that I think would be discomforting to most people. And also having them fly over your backyard and having strangers stare at you all day is probably also discomforting. So I think these are all reasons why I think VTOLs will not succeed.
Perfect. Well, I deliberately avoided calling them flying cars because most of them don't drive on the road. Is there something going on that makes you worry about the future of Tesla, or do you think the company is now completely secure?
No, I think the future of Tesla is extremely strong. So Tesla has no debt. It has a lot of cash, and there's a sort of a short-term hiccup with the COVID restrictions in Shanghai, but as to the best of my knowledge, the future of Tesla is incredibly bright, and I think we will throw off a tremendous amount of free cash flow.
Do you think, with your cash and obviously your market cap at the moment, you would ever consider buying another car maker, whether an established OEM or a new business?
Well, I think it's highly unlikely, no.
You've obviously done a number of mining deals, trying to secure raw materials. Do you think you could ever go a step further and actually buy a mining company in the future?
It's not out of the question. We will address whatever the limitations are on accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy. It's not that we wish to buy mining companies, but if that's the only way to accelerate the transition, then we will do that. There are no arbitrary limitations on what's needed to accelerate sustainable energy. We'll just tackle whatever set of things are needed to accelerate sustainable energy, and doing mining and refining or buying a mining company, provided we think we can change that mining company's trajectory significantly, are possibilities.
Thank you so much for giving us so much of your time. Ladies and gentlemen, please show your appreciation for Elon Musk. Thank you.